I'm Alina, 28.
For 28 years, I lived on a foundation of lies, believing my family was a paragon of unity and honesty. It all collapsed at my father's anniversary. In the opulent banquet hall, my younger sister, Katia, stumbled, dropping an old family keepsake box. One awkward moment, my world shattered. What was inside? Not jewelry, but faded letters, a fake will, and a photo. My father embracing another woman, not my mother, whose face was mine. My entire life, every truth, crumbled in a minute. My mother stood by the cake, adjusting candles, smiling, completely unaware her biggest secret had just landed in my hands. Before I tell you what happened next, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story resonates with you, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. My mom hissed, "You're here to wash dishes." Then shoved a stack of greasy plates into my arms in front of everyone like I was hired help instead of her daughter. My name is Alyssa Woods. I'm 29 years old, and I restore damaged historical documents for a museum in Charleston, South Carolina. I spend my days saving things other people almost threw away. Torn letters, burned maps, water-stained family records, old photographs with faces almost erased by time. I used to think that was ironic because in my own family, I was the one everyone treated like something faded and inconvenient. That night was supposed to be my grandmother's 86th birthday dinner. A small, elegant celebration in a restored harbor hall she loved. I had arranged the venue discount through my museum connections, designed the memory display, repaired old family photos for the slideshow, and quietly paid the deposit when my mother forgot to send it. But the moment I walked in wearing a navy dress instead of an apron, my mother's smile disappeared. She grabbed my wrist near the serving station and whispered through clenched teeth, "Don't start acting important tonight. Your cousin will handle the toast. Your brother will sit with the guests. You're here to wash dishes." Then she pushed me toward the kitchen doors, so hard that one plate slipped, cracked against the tile, and made the whole room turn. I looked at the guests staring at me, at my mother pretending I had embarrassed her, and I almost walked out. Then my 86-year-old grandmother slowly stood up from the head table, both hands gripping her cane, and my mother's face went completely white. Before I tell you what Grandma said, and what happened after I almost walked out, tell me, what time is it for you right now? And where are you watching from? I'm curious to see how far this story will travel. The worst part was that I had seen it coming, just not that publicly. My mother, Rebecca Woods, had a way of assigning roles before anyone entered a room. My older brother, Brandon Woods, was the successful one, even though he had lost 3 jobs in 2 years and still used our parents' credit card for groceries. My cousin, Melissa Hart, was the beautiful one because she had married a dentist and posted vacation photos like a full-time job. And I was the useful one meme, which meant I was invited only when someone needed invitations addressed, errands run, decorations fixed, chairs moved, bills covered, or emotional damage absorbed without complaint. For Grandma Ellie's birthday, I had tried to avoid the old pattern by staying behind the scenes. I restored a black and white portrait of Grandma at 21, standing beside the old Charleston harbor with wind in her hair and a stubborn smile on her face. I found newspaper clippings from when she had opened her first antique shop after Grandpa died. I even recorded short voice messages from relatives who couldn't travel, edited them into a video, and arranged for the venue's projector to play them after dinner. I told myself that if I made the night beautiful enough, Mom would have no reason to attack me. That was my first mistake. When I arrived at the hall, I saw my mother near the entrance wearing pearls, a cream blazer, and the expression she used when she wanted strangers to think she was generous. She looked me up and down once slowly, then said, "That dress is a choice." I ignored it and carried the framed portrait toward the display table. Nathan Brooks, my younger cousin and probably the only person in the family who understood silence as a warning sign, stepped over to help me. "Alyssa, this is incredible," he said, looking at the restored photo. "Grandma is going to cry." For 1 second, I felt my chest loosen. Then Mom appeared beside him and laughed lightly, the fake kind of laugh that came with a hidden blade. "Nathan, don't overdo it," She touched up a picture. Let's not act like she cured anything. Nathan's smile vanished. Mine stayed frozen because years of training had taught me not to react when Mom cut me in public. She turned toward the banquet tables and pointed at the linen napkins. The folds are uneven. Fix them, I said. The venue staff already set them. She leaned close enough for me to smell her perfume. Then make yourself useful and fix them better. I fixed the napkins. Then I adjusted the flowers. Then I moved place cards because Brandon didn't like sitting near the speakers. Then I carried gift bags from Mom's car, even though Brandon stood nearby scrolling on his phone. Every task came with the same message. Don't sit down.
Don't be seen.
Don't forget your place. When Grandma arrived, the room softened. She was small, silver-haired, and slow-moving, but her eyes missed nothing. She hugged me longer than anyone else and whispered, "You did all this, didn't you?" I tried to say, "Everyone helped." But she pulled back and gave me the look she used when I lied to protect people who didn't deserve it. Across the room, Mom watched us. Her mouth tightened. I should have recognized that look, too. It meant she had just decided I was getting too much attention. Dinner began with polite laughter and clinking glasses, but I never got to sit through the first course. Mom waved me over before I reached my chair and said the caterers were moving too slowly, which somehow became my fault. She told me to check the kitchen, refill water glasses, and make sure Grandma's favorite lemon tart was ready. You know where you're most comfortable, she added, behind the scenes. I wanted to say that behind the scenes was where people put the work they depended on, but didn't respect. Instead, I went into the kitchen because Grandma was smiling at the head table, and I refused to ruin her night. The caterers didn't need me. In fact, one of them looked confused when I asked if they were behind. "We're exactly on schedule," she said. That was when I understood. Mom wasn't solving a problem. She was creating distance between me and the room. She didn't want me sitting beside Grandma when the slideshow played. She didn't want anyone asking who had restored the photos. She wanted the evidence of my effort visible, but me invisible. I returned through the side hallway and stopped when I heard Mom's voice near the coat room. She was speaking to two of her friends, the same women who always smiled at me like they were sorry for something they would never name. "Alyssa means well," Mom said, "but she has never learned how to be impressive. Some people are leaders. Some people are support staff. She supports staff." One woman murmured, "Rebecca, that's harsh." Mom laughed. "It's honest. You should have seen her when she left that architecture program. All that tuition, all that drama, and now she plays with old paper in a basement. At least tonight she can wash dishes." My hand closed around the hallway railing. I had not left that architecture program because I was lazy. I had left after a professor plagiarized my design concept after I reported it after the school dragged me through months of meetings while Mom told everyone I couldn't handle pressure. Grandma was the only one who believed me back then. She was the one who paid for therapy when Mom called it attention-seeking. She was the one who told me broken things could still be worth saving. Hearing Mom turn that wound into dinner entertainment made my throat close. I stepped backward, and my shoulder hit a metal tray cart. The sound cracked through the hallway. Mom turned. For a second she looked caught. Then she smiled because control was her favorite costume. "Alyssa," she said, walking toward me. "Good. The dishwasher is backed up."
Ist her.
The caterer said everything is fine. Her eyes narrowed. "Don't contradict me in public." "We're not in public. You're always in public when you embarrass me." That sentence landed harder than it should have. Maybe because it explained my whole childhood. I wasn't a daughter to her. I was a reflection she thought made her look bad. Before I could answer, Nathan appeared at the end of the hallway. "Alyssa, Grandma is asking for you. The slideshow is about to start." Mom stepped between us. "She'll come after she helps in the kitchen." Nathan looked from her to me, and something in his expression sharpened. "The kitchen has staff." Mom's smile thinned. "Family helps family." I almost laughed at that. Family helps family except when family needs protection. Family helps family except when family tells the truth. Family helps family unless the family member is me. The slideshow began without me. I could hear Grandma's recorded messages playing through the hall speakers while I stood by the kitchen doors with my hands shaking around a damp towel I did not even remember picking up. On the other side of the wall, people laughed softly at old photographs, clapped at memories, and murmured in that warm family party way that always made outsiders think we were close. But I knew the truth. Warmth in my family was usually arranged for guests. Behind doors, it had conditions. Then Nathan did something I didn't expect. He walked past Mom, stepped into the side hallway, and held out his hand. "Alyssa?"
he said gently.
"Grandma is asking for you. She wants you beside her." Mom appeared behind him like a shadow. "She can come after she finishes helping." Nathan didn't move. "The caterers are helping. Alyssa is family." Mom's smile sharpened. "Don't lecture me about my own daughter. Then stop treating her like staff," he said. The words were not loud, but they cut cleanly through the hallway. For 1 second, I thought Mom might slap him with her eyes alone. Instead, she gave a thin laugh and stepped aside because there were guests close enough to hear, and public image mattered more to her than truth. Nathan took my wrist gently, not pulling, just offering me a way back into the room. I followed him, my stomach twisting, my chest tight, and the moment Grandma saw me, she patted the empty chair beside her. It was at the head table. It was the chair Mom had quietly filled with her purse earlier, like even an object had more right to sit there than I did. Nathan picked up the purse and placed it on a side table. The room noticed. Mom noticed most of all. I sat beside Grandma, and she slipped her small hand over mine under the table. "Stay," she whispered. "No matter what she does, stay." Before I could ask what she meant, the screen behind us changed. The restored portrait appeared. Grandma at 21, standing by Charleston Harbor in a pale dress, her chin lifted, her smile stubborn and bright. The room gasped. Not politely, truly. Someone said, "Eleanor, that's beautiful." Grandma covered her mouth with trembling fingers. "I thought that picture was ruined," she whispered. Nathan took the microphone from the stand. Alyssa restored it from a damaged copy found in Grandma's attic. She also built the entire memory display tonight, including the letters, the business clippings, and the voice messages from relatives who couldn't travel. Applause started slowly, then grew. People turned toward me with surprise, warmth, maybe even respect. It should have felt good. It almost did. But across the room, Mom stood near the dessert table with her shoulders stiff, and her mouth shaped into a smile that looked painful to hold. Brandon, who had never been able to read a room unless the room was praising him, raised his glass and said, "Guess Alyssa finally found a use for all that museum stuff." A few people chuckled awkwardly, not because it was funny, but because families train people to laugh when cruelty is disguised as teasing. Mom saw her opening. She crossed the room and took the microphone from Nathan before he could stop her. "Since we're giving credit," she said brightly, "let's keep things in perspective. Alyssa helped with a few sentimental details, and we appreciate that. But tonight is about my mother, not about turning a simple family favor into some grand personal achievement ceremony." The applause died. Grandma's hand tightened around mine. Mom kept smiling, but her eyes were locked on me. Alyssa has always needed extra encouragement. Some children naturally become independent. Some understand responsibility without being pushed. Others need structure, direction, and realistic expectations. Nathan said quietly, "Rebecca, don't." She ignored him. "I asked her to help where she is useful tonight, and that should not be treated like an insult. Not everyone is meant to lead. Some people support. That's perfectly respectable when they accept it." My throat went dry. I could feel every guest looking at me, then looking away, then looking back, trapped between manners and discomfort. Mom turned fully toward me now, still holding the microphone, which meant every word carried through the speakers. "In fact, sweetheart, the kitchen really does need you. You're here to wash dishes, not sit at the head table collecting applause." The sentence hit the room like glass breaking. Nobody laughed this time. Even Brandon stopped smirking. Someone whispered, "Rebecca." I stood up, so quickly my chair scraped the floor. "I'm leaving," I said. My voice was quiet, but it sounded strangely steady. Mom lowered the microphone slightly and stepped closer. Don't be dramatic. You always do this. You turn correction into cruelty. You just told a room full of people I belong in the kitchen? Because you're acting like you belong above everyone. I looked at Grandma, and the pain on her face nearly broke me. I didn't want her birthday remembered for this. I didn't want to cry in front of people who had watched my mother shrink me for years and called it family dynamics. So, I picked up my bag and started toward the exit. Mom followed, fast enough that her heels clicked like a warning. Near the aisle, she grabbed my elbow, not hard enough to bruise, but hard enough to remind me who she thought had authority. You walk out that door, she hissed, the microphone still live at her side, and don't bother coming to family events again. I am done pretending your sensitivity is everyone else's problem. The old Alyssa would have apologized. The old Alyssa would have stayed, washed dishes, smiled in photos, and cried in the car afterward, where no one could accuse her of ruining the evening. But before I could decide which version of me was standing there, Grandma Ellie pushed her chair back. The wooden legs scraped loudly against the floor. Every face turned. Slowly, carefully, with one hand on her cane and the other pressed to the table, my 86-year-old grandmother stood up. Her expression was not shocked. It was not confused. It was the expression of a woman who had finally heard enough. Mom's fingers released my arm immediately. Her face went white, not pale, not embarrassed, white. And that was when I realized Grandma had not just seen what happened. Grandma had been waiting for Mom to reveal herself in front of witnesses. "Give me the microphone, Rebecca," Grandma said. Her voice was not loud, but it traveled through the hall with the kind of authority age gives only to people who have survived more than others can imagine. Mom tried to laugh, but the sound came out thin. "Mother, please sit down. You're tired. This isn't good for you." Grandma held out her hand. "What isn't good for me is watching my daughter humiliate my granddaughter at my own birthday dinner." The silence after that was so complete I could hear someone set down a fork. Mom's eyes flicked around the room, calculating, searching for the safest version of herself to perform. "You're misunderstanding,"
she said.
"I was only trying to keep Alyssa grounded." Grandma's hand remained extended. The microphone. For a few seconds, neither of them moved. Then Nathan stepped closer, not threatening, just present. Mom handed the microphone over, but as she did, she leaned close and whispered, "Don't make a scene." Grandma looked at her with a sadness, so sharp it felt like a blade wrapped in velvet. "You made the scene when you put your hands on my granddaughter." A murmur moved through the room. Mom stiffened. Grandma turned toward the guests. "I am 86 years old today, and I have learned that silence can become a family illness if everyone mistakes it for peace. So tonight, I am done being polite." My whole body went still. Grandma lifted her chin. Alyssa did not just help with sentimental details. Alyssa spent 3 months restoring my family photographs. She repaired letters from my late husband that I thought water damage had destroyed forever. She found my first business license from 1964, the one I signed the year after I buried my husband and had to build a life with 2 children and no safety net. She contacted relatives, edited their messages, arranged this slideshow, and paid the deposit on this hall when Rebecca told the venue she had forgotten her checkbook. The room shifted. Heads turned toward Mom. Her lips parted. "Mother, that was private." Grandma's eyes flashed. "So was Alyssa's pain, but you announced that through a microphone." I felt the words land in the room like a verdict. My hand started trembling, not from fear this time, but from the shock of being defended without having to beg for it. Grandma reached down to the folder beside her plate and pulled out several papers, each one marked with neat tabs in her careful handwriting. "And since we are discussing what is private, let me clear up something else. 2 months ago, I asked Rebecca to help me update my estate documents. Instead of helping me follow my wishes, she tried to persuade me that Alyssa was too unstable to handle responsibility." Mom's face drained. Brandon sat forward. "What estate documents?" Grandma did not look at him yet. Her gaze stayed on my mother. "Rebecca suggested that my antique shop shares, my house authority, and my family archive should be placed under Brandon's control because, according to her, he was the practical one. She also suggested that Alyssa might become emotional and sell things irresponsibly. Brandon blinked. Mom, you said Grandma wanted me involved. Mom snapped. Brandon, not now. Grandma finally turned to him.
No, Brandon.
Now is exactly when truth becomes useful. I never chose you to control my shop. I never chose your mother to speak for me after hearing how she speaks about Alyssa. I heard enough in small doses for years. Tonight simply gave everyone else the full performance. A few guests gasped. Linda, Mom's closest friend, lowered her eyes. Nathan stood beside me, with his jaw tight. And I suddenly understood why he had looked so prepared earlier. Grandma had not come into this room helpless. She had come in with witnesses, paperwork, and a decision already made. She lifted another page. So, I contacted Nathan. Quietly. I reviewed my accounts, my medical documents, my property records, and the family trust. This morning, before this dinner, I signed the final documents. Rebecca is no longer trustee of anything connected to me. Mom whispered, "You can't do that." Nathan answered calmly, "She can."
She did.
Everything was reviewed, witnessed, and properly executed. Grandma nodded. Rebecca will not control my medical decisions. She will not control my accounts. She will not control my house. Brandon will not receive the antique shop shares he was promised without my permission. Alyssa will serve as my primary family representative, and after my passing, she will oversee the Whitaker Family Archive and Restoration Fund. My knees almost weakened beneath me. "Grandma," I whispered, but she lifted one hand slightly, asking me to let her finish. "I am not choosing Alyssa because she is easy to control," Grandma said. "I am choosing her because she does not confuse control with care. She listens. She preserves what other people throw away. She understands that history is not protected by the loudest person in the room, but by the person patient enough to handle fragile things with respect." Mom's eyes filled with tears, but they looked more like panic than remorse. "You're punishing me because I wanted standards,"
she said.
Grandma's answer came immediately.
No.
"I am protecting this family from your standards." The words rolled across the room, and for the first time all night, Mom had no weapon ready. Brandon pushed back from the table. "So, what does that mean for me?" Grandma looked tired when she answered. "It means you are not entitled to a life raft built from Alyssa's humiliation." Nathan added, "And it means no one will be pressuring Alyssa to sign, transfer, manage, cover, forgive, or fund anything after tonight." That sentence told me more than I wanted to know. Mom had plans beyond making me wash dishes. Maybe she had expected to use me later, to pull me into paperwork, to make me the quiet worker while Brandon became the public heir. A cold clarity moved through me. This was never just about a chair at dinner. It was about keeping me small enough to be useful. Grandma reached for my hand again. "Alyssa, come here, sweetheart." I stood frozen in the aisle, bag still hanging from my shoulder, unsure whether I was allowed to walk back into a place I had been pushed out of. Nathan whispered, "Go. This is your seat." I walked to Grandma. She took my hand in both of hers, her skin thin and warm, her grip stronger than it looked. Then she turned to the room and said, "My granddaughter was never invited here to wash dishes. She was invited because I wanted the person who saved my memories sitting beside me." That was when I cried. Not loudly, not dramatically, just silently with tears falling before I could stop them. Mom looked furious, but beneath the fury was something more satisfying than shame. It was panic. She had lost the room. She had lost the inheritance game. She had lost the story. And worst of all for someone like her, she had lost the power to decide who I was in front of everyone. Mom tried to recover the only way she knew how, by pretending everyone else was unreasonable. "This is absurd," she said, looking around the hall as if searching for allies. "Alyssa is manipulating you. She has always known how to play fragile." The words should have crushed me, but something had changed.
They sounded familiar now.
Not true. Grandma turned the microphone off and handed it to Nathan. Then she faced Mom without amplification, which somehow made her more powerful. "Rebecca, when Alyssa was 21 and reported that professor for stealing her design, you told relatives she had a breakdown because she couldn't compete. When she switched fields and found museum restoration, you called it hiding. When she paid your bills after Brandon's failed business loan drained your savings, you told people she was finally contributing. When she asked for one family dinner without criticism, you said she was too sensitive. At what point does your help stop looking like love and start looking like harm? Mom's eyes flicked toward the guests. Some looked away. Some didn't. Her closest friend, Linda, lowered her head. Brandon stared at the table, probably realizing the inheritance he thought was guaranteed had just evaporated. I waited for Mom to apologize. Instead, she laughed once, sharp and ugly. So, this is what we're doing? Turning my daughter against me on my mother's birthday? I stepped forward. My voice shook, but I didn't let it disappear. You did that yourself. She looked at me like I had slapped her. Excuse me? You heard me. Grandma didn't turn me against you. Nathan didn't. This room didn't. You did. Every time you made me earn basic kindness. Every time you called me dramatic for reacting to pain you caused. Every time you accepted my help privately and mocked me publicly. The room was so quiet I could hear the air conditioner hum. Mom's mouth tightened. I am your mother. Then act like one. The sentence came out before fear could stop it. A few guests inhaled. Grandma's hand found mine again. I kept going because if I stopped, I knew I might never say it. I paid the deposit for this hall. I restored the photos. I made the memory display. I arranged the video messages. I came here because I love Grandma. And you still looked me in the face and told me my place was with dirty dishes. Mom's eyes shone now, but I no longer trusted tears as proof. I had seen her cry when consequences arrived, never when damage was being done. Alyssa, she said softly, switching tactics.
I didn't mean it that way.
I almost smiled. Yes, you did. You just didn't expect anyone important to hear it. That landed. Her face crumpled for half a second before pride rebuilt it. Grandma stepped in again. Rebecca, you owe your daughter a public apology. Mom stiffened. Mother, a public apology. Grandma repeated, or you may leave my birthday dinner. Brandon muttered, this is ridiculous. Nathan turned to him. Careful. You're not helping yourself. Mom looked at the exit, then at the guests, then at Grandma. She understood the trap. If she left, she proved Grandma right. If she stayed, she had to lower herself in the room she had tried to dominate. For the first time in my life, my mother had no clean way to win. She swallowed. Alyssa, she said, voice tight, I'm sorry I embarrassed you.
Grandma said no.
Mom blinked.
What?
That is not an apology. That is a description. Heat climbed up Mom's neck. I watched the woman who had corrected my posture, my tone, my career, my face, my grief, now being corrected by her own mother in front of everyone. It should have felt cruel. Instead, it felt balanced. Mom inhaled sharply. I am sorry I treated you like you were less important than everyone else tonight. I am sorry I dismissed the work you did for this family. I am sorry I put my hands on you and told you to wash dishes when you deserved a seat at the table. Her voice cracked on the last sentence. This time the room believed the humiliation, even if I wasn't ready to believe the change. She stepped toward me, arms opening slightly. I stepped back. Her face fell.
I said, no.
You don't get to fix this with one public apology because Grandma forced you to give it. The words felt terrifying and clean. For now, I accept that you said it. I don't accept pretending everything is fine. Grandma nodded once, proud and sad at the same time. Mom lowered her arms. For once, she had to stand in the discomfort she usually handed to me. The rest of the dinner did not become magically happy, and I'm glad it didn't because real healing does not arrive like a movie ending with soft music and perfect forgiveness. Grandma still blew out her candles.
People still ate dessert.
Nathan still made a toast that somehow made everyone laugh without pretending the night had been normal. But Mom did not sit at the center of the room anymore. She sat near the end of the table, quiet, watching Grandma hold my hand while the restored slideshow played again from the beginning. When the portrait appeared, Grandma whispered, "That girl in the picture had no idea how hard life would become." I asked, "Would you warn her?" She smiled.
No.
I'd tell her to buy better shoes and trust herself sooner. For the first time all night, I laughed. After dinner, I didn't wash a single dish. The caterers handled the kitchen because that was what they had been paid to do. I helped Grandma into Nathan's car, and before I left, Mom approached me near the hall entrance. Her makeup was smudged, her pearls slightly crooked, and she looked smaller, without an audience to control. "Can we talk tomorrow?" she asked. I looked at her for a long moment. The old Alyssa would have said yes, because no felt dangerous. The new Alyssa understood that peace built on fear was just another kind of prison. "No," I said, "not tomorrow. I need space." Her face tightened, but she nodded. "How long?" "Until I decide I'm ready." She looked like she wanted to argue, then glanced through the window at Grandma sitting in the car with Nathan beside her. The power had shifted, and she knew it. "Okay," she whispered. 6 months later, Grandma's antique shop reopened under a new name, Whitaker House Restoration and Archives. Grandma owned it. I managed the preservation studio in the back, while keeping my museum position part-time. We restored family documents, old letters, military records, and photographs people thought were beyond saving. On opening day, Grandma sat behind the front desk like a queen in comfortable shoes. Nathan handled the legal paperwork. Brandon sent flowers, but did not show up, which was probably for the best. Mom came 10 minutes before closing. She stood in the doorway holding a small cardboard box. "I found these in my attic," she said. Inside were my architecture sketches from college, the ones I thought she had thrown away. Some were bent. One had coffee stains, but they were still there. "I kept them," she said. I don't know why I acted like they didn't matter. I took the box, careful not to let the moment become more than it was. "Thank you for bringing them." She nodded, eyes wet. "Your grandmother said you might need someone to help label inventory on Saturdays." I looked toward Grandma, who pretended to study a receipt with innocent concentration. "This is not a family favor," I told Mom. "If you help here, you follow my system. You don't criticize customers. You don't rewrite my labels.
You don't talk down to me.
And if you disrespect me, you leave." Mom absorbed every word. A year earlier, she would have called me ungrateful. That day, she only said, "I understand." So, I handed her a pair of cotton gloves and a stack of photo sleeves. My mother, the woman who once told me I was only there to wash dishes, spent the afternoon sorting other people's memories under my instructions. That was not revenge in the loud way people imagine it. It was better. She had lost the right to define me, and I had gained the strength to define the terms of her return. I did forgive her eventually, but not all at once, and not for free. Forgiveness did not mean forgetting what happened in that hall. It meant I stopped letting that moment poison every room I entered. The lesson Grandma taught me was simple. Toxic love often hides behind family duty, and boundaries are not disrespect. Sometimes the person who calls you dramatic is only angry because you finally named the truth out loud. Sometimes the person who sends you to the kitchen is terrified of seeing you at the head table. And sometimes the most powerful revenge is not destroying someone. It is becoming so steady, so self-respecting, and so impossible to control that they have to meet the version of you they tried to bury. So, tell me honestly, if someone in your family humiliated you for years, but finally started changing, would you give them another chance? Or would you choose distance to protect your peace?